Okay, what is going on, guys? Welcome to the first episode of Tech Challenged. Yeah, Brett, here we go, man. It is.
Yeah.
It's a talk show.
Yeah, we're not professionals, but we got to chatting in Taiwan when we were at Computex, and we decided that we wanted to do something together. So here it is.
I will say this, Brett. We made it look professional. Like, we look like we know what we're doing. Like, in all that sort of
This was all you. I'm just showing up.
No, this is a team effort. It's always a team. Like, all in all, yes. A huge shout out to Sean and the group for basically making all of the assets and stuff like that. But yeah, guys, this is tech talkers talking tech about tech talk. That's really what it is. I love that we came up with that fun thing. And I did want to start off a little bit because when we think about Tech Challenge, I think the one thing that we thought of that name is literally just saying is like, we are by means no experts. This is literally just our opinions on the things that are happening in the world of gaming, tech, you name it, right? You can take everything with a grain of salt. This is just a lot of people ask for our opinions on things, and this is something you do on a pretty regular basis, right, Brett?
Yeah, I'm a professional yapper. That's especially when it comes to tech, I can just yap all day. So this is perfect.
So that's the way to think of it. So as we're talking about the things that we're talking about, of course, we can see chat. We're going to interact with you guys. If you guys have questions, the one thing that's always fun about doing stuff live is that we get to interact with you. So you guys are about as much of this show as we are. We have put together a massive list of just all the stuff that's kind of happened over the couple of weeks. And the plan is to try and do this every other week. So that's kind of our cadence from this thing. But Brett has a massive thing that is here coming in the future, a looming, like, I don't even, it's just a big thing.
Are you talking about my vasectomy tomorrow or my new baby that's arriving at the end of the year?
I wasn't. Okay, you've already said that the vasectomy was not that big of a deal. Talking about the baby coming.
Yes. Yeah.
So we're going to see how this goes and run things up until September. Again, we'll probably have some fluctuations because both Brett and I are very busy. So you might see these on Tuesdays, you might see these on Mondays. We'll always give you a week heads up as we kind of figure out what the timing and stuff is. But that is the point of today, is like literally just to talk about whatever you guys want to talk about, while at the same time we have a bunch of news and information to go through as well. So. Yep. I think we just jump into it, Brett. You want to kick it off, and I'll bring the first one up. Alleged AMD Ryzen AI 9 365, which I have to say, your UFD tech, you're right. Office 365, Microsoft,
it's a Microsoft 365 name. Yeah.
The name.
Did they hire somebody from a different marketing agency to come up with these names? Because I don't want to harp too much, and we can move right on past this. But I think this is objectively that.
Yes, this is objectively that. It was like, I understood, and we actually did a whole thing when we all watched, because you and I both did videos on the announcements and the releases. Like, they're trying very hard to simplify, but there's just something about when something like 365 or whatever shows up there and it's used like kind of everywhere, you're just like, this didn't work out the way that it was. And the other thing too is, and I'll be honest, Intel's not a whole lot better right now with going from Core Ultra, from Core i9, and now like even whatever Lunar Lake and everything else is going to be anyway. Okay, it's a whole nother subject. But the point being is that it looks like we're actually starting to get early previews of data and performance. And this one was actually based on a review. Somebody was actually doing a review after I read this a little bit. What do you think of what's going on here?
I mean, so what we're seeing is the first look at Zen 5, which is going to be the next gen in both laptops and desktops. The thing that I'm surprised about with all of this is, like, AMD's put out their benchmark numbers before, and these numbers are about right in line with the average improvement that AMD told us to expect. But the thing that's honestly surprising to me is that AMD announced these chips at Computex, and they are going to be releasing next month. That's something that hasn't happened before when it comes to mobile, where the announcement and the release were so close together. So I think it's showing me that AMD is taking the laptop market seriously with the AI 9 365 Copilot Plus. That it doesn't actually support that, but the numbers look in line with what AMD told us to expect, which is good, right? They're not lying to us, is what it makes it look like at this point.
And this is okay. So let's I think this is a great way to segue into something that's actually very interesting because Ryzen. So the Ryzen AI, and correct me if I'm wrong, the Ryzen 9. These ones, they're going to have like one chip, where Intel in a lot of ways is making two chips. They have Lunar Lake, which is the one that you and I got to go talk about in Taiwan, and then they have Arrow Lake, and their new. Those are like the desktop replacement. So it's almost like they've decided they're going to split the two markets up, which I think is actually end up going to be really confusing because they're both Core Ultras, but now it's going to be even harder to understand like which one is for which team versus like when you buy a Ryzen AI, a Ryzen AI chip, right? Like it's going to be a little bit simpler.
Yes, theoretically, but this is one of the things that we kind of pressed Intel on when we were at Intel Tech Tour. They didn't announce the naming scheme for Lunar Lake, and they also didn't announce the naming scheme for Arrow Lake. So I'm hoping if anybody sensible is listening, please call the desktop chips the 15th gen. I want a 15900K. Calling it Core Ultra 200 is going to make things worse. I think that might be one of the reasons they haven't said it yet. Or maybe I'm just reading too much into it and they're just holding back. But you're right. The AI 9365 versus 9950X is much easier to parse.
It is, but I mean, I do have to say, like the one thing I will say, and the other thing too is that I also know just a little bit because we're starting to get the seeding and stuff like that is starting to, like, people are starting to reach out about seeding because even Asus, like we had another article we talked about, but Asus has even talked about the fact that these chips are coming, right? Yes. And so it feels like, for real, like not only did you see the announcement, but like for real, these things are going to be here in 3 weeks, right? Now, question is, how readily available are they going to be? It's like even when we saw Meteor Lake, we got the announcement and then they said they were out, but you weren't really seeing a mass marketer even to the point where you could just go to like a Best Buy or Micro Center and pick them up for like 2-3 months, right?
Right.
Mobile has a tendency to be very long in terms of when they say, oh, it's out, you can buy it, to when you actually can get devices. But it feels like on the AMD side, this is actually not true. Like we may actually have devices and people may be able to pick up a device that they want within a reasonable amount of time. Now, again,
I've already seen product listings at like Best Buy as like the release date is July 15th, so it does look like there will be stock. It's not going to be a paper launch, at least for the mobile processors.
Yeah, for sure. Now, and again, with like all in all, but it looks like it's around. It's like you said, it looks like it's around kind of what people are saying. It's about 15%. Everybody's going to have to test it, right? That's always the thing that's super interesting is that, it's one thing for the stuff that we read, and this is the one that is so bad. Like sometimes it's kind of like we have to decide if essentially what you're reading is going to translate into real world stuff, because a lot of times it doesn't, right? Like we'll see, like, and even some of the things, like there is some seeding, some secret seeding from companies, right, before this stuff kind of comes out to build up some hype, etc. And until we actually get it in our grubby little hands. I mean, I think one example that we can talk about is Snapdragon, right? Have you got to play with this at all?
I have 5 of them. I went a little overkill and picked up a lot of Snapdragon chips because I was very interested.
Yeah, so I mean, so I have a Surface. I have one of the Surfaces, and I'll be fair. This feels like a repeat of the rodeo that we went through with Windows S, right? Like again, it's not. This doesn't feel anything like for all the stuff that we saw in terms of what we expected. I feel like, again, I'm being a little bit let down. And the question I have is battery life really, I mean, I've got Meteor Lake laptops right now. Like for instance, I can take the MSI Prestige 16 AI Evo. I get 9+ hours on that thing. I don't ever worry about battery on that one. I've got 11 hours on the HP Omen 14. That's got an OLED screen. It plays pretty much everything I want. Like, does 18 hours or 22 hours really matter all that much to me? I don't know. Does it matter that much to you, Brett?
So I think it's a false dichotomy, right? Like the reason I like being on a MacBook so much is because I get long battery life combined with a lot of power.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that Windows has traditionally done poorly at, is providing you the power for a long period of time. Yeah, on a thin and light, I might be able to get 8 hours of just web browsing, but on my MacBook, I can edit a full video and only be down 15%. And that's one of the things that it looks like Microsoft tweaked a little bit when it came to their new update for Windows 11, and that is battery performance doesn't appear to degrade quite as much, or the performance of the chip on battery appears to be closer to it being plugged in, which is interesting. But additionally, like, we're also waiting for these new Zen 5 mobile chips to come out. Lunar Lake's supposed to be coming out, and one of the biggest issues that I think Snapdragon has right now is that its GPU is bad, especially compared to AMD. Like, even in Qualcomm's own marketing materials, they're comparing themselves to Meteor Lake instead of AMD's
Right.
8840U. And so, like, you're sacrificing GPU power tremendously in order to get that extra battery life, and then you just have to wait 2 weeks to get AMD's, where you should be able to get both.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then this, and I mean, again, when you market that with, again, the whole nightmare that is Copilot Plus and everything else, it just feels like, in a lot of ways, the Snapdragon, Copilot Plus, and all this, like, this launch has been a little bit of a train wreck, right? In terms of what it is, like, especially because it's just like people still don't, I think, fully understand what Copilot Plus really is.
Yeah, I think the launch would have been fine if it weren't for Microsoft going so hard on being only with Qualcomm here.
Yeah.
Like, if this was an update that they were like, oh, it's broadly applicable to anybody who has enough horsepower to run it, right? Like, my 4090 can run Copilot Plus, no problem. I don't understand why I have to wait for it to come out in a later update. But then also, you've got Qualcomm running their mouth saying that they're going to be in, what, 40 to 60% of all thin-in lights in the next few years. Like, that, I don't think that's going to happen.
I don't think
and that
that's going
makes
to
the
happen
launch
either.
worse.
Yeah.
When you have these companies coming out and talking about how big of a deal it is, yeah, they kind of, if it was just a Microsoft announcement saying, hey, Qualcomm updated stuff and we're bringing some new AI features, and it was just a presentation of like, hey, here's the next step, rather than, hey, here's a revolution and this is going to be the next thing you need to be paying attention to, I think I would have, they shot themselves in the foot with their own marketing here.
And I feel like this is the thing. It's funny, something that you said at the very beginning of the show, where you said, if reasonable people were watching, I don't understand. And by the way, hi to Boetz, it's good to see you. He said hi to us and all that. Hey, what's up, dude?
Terrence?
It was good to see you in Taipei. But to get back to the subject, when you say reasonable people are paying attention, it drives me nuts. I'm sorry, like, I worked at Microsoft for 20 years, and like, I was part of marketing campaigns, and when I would see stuff like this, and I'd be like, guys, do you understand how dumb this is, right? Like, I don't understand where somebody thought, like, looking at this, they're like, this is honestly gonna be the revolution. And the funny thing is like, it's coming out that it really wasn't, and you're like, guys, come on, I know that there are smart people who work there that should have been able to basically call that before it came in there. I don't know, it's disappointing. It's disappointing, right?
Yeah. I mean, I like the Snapdragon laptops. I've been enjoying I have the Samsung Galaxy Book 4, and like, it's nice, but also, like, one of the companies they're not really talking about that they have to compete with is Apple.
Yeah.
And they're pricing themselves like they're a MacBook Pro, when they don't really compete. So yeah, it's just big egos and big marketing promises met by decent gains. It's not like it's actually disappointing. There's impressive engineering that has gone into these chips. Like, we can respect that, but then also, ask them to tone it down next time.
Yeah. And the other thing too is, like, again, I feel like the tech press, and specifically people who they've been through this before. So I think if you would have had better expectations or whatever it was, it didn't seem like it just feels like they didn't manage it all that well at all. Like,
yeah,
at all. Speaking of confusing, right? And honestly, dude, what is going to be an absolutely bonkers year for tech, guys. So basically, we said the first Intel, and remember, this is not actually the official naming scheme. Intel has not officially named this. I've heard rumors from Core Ultra Series 2 to Core Ultra Series Plus to now they have Intel Core Ultra 200. We don't know what it actually is, but this is this right here is the upcoming PC platforms that are launching this year, and it does not include, obviously, the apparent, and we're expecting a, Nvidia announce for their 5000 series, usually around the end of the year with a launch in early around CES of next year. So we got July 15th, we got Strix Point CPUs. July 31st, we got Granite Ridge or Ryzen 9000. September, we got Core Ultra. September, mid-September, this is rumored. Like, again, this has not been confirmed. Core Ultra, Lunar Lake CPUs. And then we've got X870 and B650 that are supposed to obviously launch in Q3. And then we've got Core Ultra K, or the Arrow Lake S CPUs and Intel Z890. And then you've got January, the Core Ultra 200s, which are just the plain non-Ks, or the unlock, like your 14.7s or whatever it was. But dude, it is going to be a bonkers, 6 months, dude. And you're having a baby and getting a vasectomy.
Yeah. Hopefully the recovery from one of those will be quick for me. But yeah, this is a lot. So one of the things when I'm looking at this schedule and seeing all of the preliminary benchmarks for AMD's Strix Point and Granite Ridge, it looks like they're going to beat what Intel has currently out in the market. The 14th gen doesn't look like it's going to be able to keep up with Ryzen 9000.
Yep.
I can't remember a time, at least since I've been paying attention to tech, where AMD not only was beating Intel, but Intel didn't have a response for 3 months.
Yep.
Because we're looking at a July launch for AMD, an October launch for Intel. This Arrow Lake stuff was supposed to be out last year. That was the initial roadmap.
Yep.
And now they're 10 plus months delayed. And not only does AMD have new stuff launching, but it just feels like Intel's behind for not just going tit for tat like they have before, but actually no response for a full quarter. I don't think I've seen that before.
Yep. No, you're not wrong. And I mean, again, and this is, the one thing is that AMD, so one thing that AMD obviously has done very, very well, and we'll all be honest, is in the PC DIY market, if you go to the Amazon top selling CPUs, 7 of the top 10 are all AMD CPUs. The question is, and this will be the thing that's super interesting, is when you look at high-end desktop pre-built PCs, low-end, actually you have some penetration on pre-built PCs from AMD, but on the high-end side, that's actually almost entirely Intel. It's actually very few sell as Ryzen CPUs. This feels like, especially with the kind of performance we're seeing out of Granite Ridge, this feels like their chance to actually make a dent even in that market, because we've seen 6040 as a pretty reasonable number, even with the latest Steam hardware numbers that are coming out now. It still seems to be I think it's 5842 at this point in time. Arrow Lake has to come back, right? I think it was even a surprise to you and I, maybe more to me than even you, but with the TSMC thing that actually Intel did, taking the gloves off and making sure they didn't even use their own chip to try and be competitive. What do you think? Is this, how do we look at Arrow Lake moving forward? I'm concerned, right? I don't know if it's going to be all that in a bag of chips.
Yeah, I definitely concerned. Maybe hopefully the delay in it launching is because they switched over to TSMC and they realized they couldn't produce their own chips, which is a huge change from how Intel used to do things. The reason we were on 14 nanometers for so long wasn't because they couldn't come up with a new architecture. It was because they couldn't actually fabricate the chips. And so switching to TSMC for fabrication shows a humility that we haven't seen before. And it's clear that at least from the CEO level, they know that they have to catch up. And so I feel like Arrow Lake is just the step of catching up. But then also, we're looking at Ryzen 9000 launching in July. The X3D chips also, are supposedly on reserve for whenever Arrow Lake does drop. And I don't know that many people are going to upgrade to a 9700X or a 9950X when the 9700X 3D or 9800X 3D might come in at $400 and wipe the floor with everything else that's on the market. So they're in a rough space, Intel is, but I'm not hearing bravado from the top, which makes it easier to not fault them here, right? They're in a position that previous leadership put them in, and now they're trying to find their way out of it.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, like I mean, at least me, I don't want to speak for you, sorry. At least me, I came away from the Lunar Lake presentation actually more bolstered, and even looking at how it was received even widely, like it feels like there could be a surprise. Like I think a lot of people were expecting coming out of ITT and all of the announcements about Lunar Lake, that it wasn't going to be where people kind of expected it, and there could be some really, really great stuff there, right? And the other thing too is, I'll be honest, I feel like people don't give a lot of credit to Meteor Lake, and even with the Meteor Lake roundup and the stuff that we've been doing around even Meteor Lake, there's some very impressive things where we had like the G16 Zephyrus from them that I was getting like 2 to 4 hours of gaming, right? Like, and this is, or even running a live stream like off battery power on a 16-inch laptop for 3+ hours, and it still being okay, right? Like, this is like stuff that you just haven't been able to do. I mean, with Macs, yes, but not with Intel CPUs and stuff like that since then. So, I mean, I don't know, but like, it's just like it really feels like right now, and let's be honest, like for the last quarter, I mean, when you talk about January even to now, AMD's actually been really quiet outside of like their AI stuff and some other things that have kind of come out there. They haven't really been beating their chest, or there hasn't been a ton of marketing, etc., right? Because I feel like they just know that they've got something really great coming out.
Yeah, I agree, and I think we're in a very good place. Competition is back finally. Intel's not wiping the floor with AMD. Intel's definitely realizing that they have to make some both architectural as well as fabrication changes. And I think that's where we want all of the companies to be. Because right now, if we look on the GPU side, it's the exact opposite. It is Nvidia and Nvidia alone. AMD, as much as people on the internet wants to, comments that they love AMD so much, they don't have the market share on the GPU side. And so Nvidia doesn't have to innovate or change or try. They can focus on their AI data centers because they're not going to lose market share on the gaming side of things. And so I like where we are with CPUs, because Intel and AMD have to go back and forth. Yeah. And then now we have the new entrance of Microsoft putting actual effort into developing Windows for ARM. And so Qualcomm coming out with their chips, the rumored Nvidia MediaTek partnership that could be coming out sometime in the future. Like there's a lot going on in the CPU department, which is I'm excited for.
And I have to agree, right? Like all in all, like, and this is something that I say on a consistent basis, competition is great, right? And if you don't have it, like companies don't innovate. And that it's funny because that takes us to kind of like our next subject, and I'm sure this subject will still intertwine from there. But a little bit of interesting stuff in terms of NVIDIA, and now with the success, like literally, the Radeon situation is actually pretty poor. Like for the most part, I feel like AMD's kind of figuring out what their strategy is around this. Meanwhile, NVIDIA's success has been so bad that now they have employees and they're losing mind share because employees are essentially leaving or becoming complacent because I read a story about a mid-level engineer. I mean, this isn't even a high-end. She basically had just maxed out her ESPP, for those who don't know, that allows you to basically buy your stock at a reduced rate. She's retiring this year with $63 million. That is a very healthy retirement, but it's Jensen's actually. I mean, one of the things that they're starting to have is now, because their stock and everything's jumped. You have engineers who have 100 million. You have some that have half $500 million because of stock and stuff like that, and they're just waiting for vesting. And a lot of them are leaving, and they're losing some pretty key parts. And then the other thing that was interesting about this article specifically is it also read about the fact that they have engineers who just feel like they don't. Why do they need to compete? No one's even close.
Yeah.
Right. This is nuts.
I mean, it is. But also, I have to wonder how much of this is conflating, like the boom in AI and the massive stock jump, and the fact that Nvidia is 30 years old and people who have been around for a while are actually at retirement age now, and so like maybe they've been phasing out for a little while now, and they just have a good excuse to pin it on. It's good marketing for them to say, oh hey, this is why our top engineers are lazy. It's because they're now multimillionaires, not because they're 60 and they've been with the company since they got out of their PhD program, and so they just want to spend time with their family, right? Like it could be either one, and this is a great story. But I'm not necessarily convinced that it's all because of money, because like they've been rich for a while. Yes, Nvidia's gone on a tear. They've improved so much this year, but like all of the senior engineers who have been there for a while have been rich for a while, like generational wealth type of money for quite some time, because Nvidia's been at the top of the GPU game for a long time. They're now the world's richest company, which feels like it puts it on a different order of magnitude. But I don't know. I feel like if you have $50 million and now you have $100 million, those both feel like fake numbers to me, as somebody who's working out of his basement. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I need to experience that type of generational wealth in order to understand my motivations a little bit better. But I don't know. It's a great story.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I think that's a great point. So I don't know if you guys have heard this. Nvidia, if you could just gift Brett 100,000 shares just so he could feel that wealth, spend it for a little while. I think this is good research for the show. I mean, again, we just need to understand, how motivated are you when you have $50 million versus $100 million? I don't know. I mean, I think it's one of those things. As somebody who worked at MS, right, and worked at Microsoft, especially when, at the height before things dropped down to 30, and then, if you look at here, I'll just do a search, when you look at Microsoft stock, where it was, I remember, and this is over the last 5 years, when I remember the 2020s, and then this right here, when we were talking at 178, I remember when it was actually at 30, and then we saw the jump up. I guess I forgot how much time I've actually spent there. We saw a lot of people, once they got into that 10 or $20 million range, they're like, I don't need to work, right?
Yeah.
And so there was some people, I mean, when you look at that versus what happened even in Nvidia stock, right? If you look at the Nvidia stock price today, over the course of a year, dude, you're looking at it jumping from $46, and it's been 46. Look at this, 46. And then in January, it went from 48 all the way up to $130, right? That's in some ways, people were sitting on that and they were investing. So that's in some cases, that's a massive jump in terms of the overall price, right? So
yeah.
No, I'm not saying that you're not wrong. I'm just saying that there was a lot of people who went from I had $2 million to 15, $20 million, and that's a big jump in terms of generational wealth.
Yeah, I hear you. Maybe it's just I'm too broke to understand the mindset. But also, I also know, from listening to podcasts of high performers, not because I am one myself, but the people who tend to be at the top don't tend to be there for money. They tend to be there for purpose.
Yeah.
I don't know. And
I agree.
Yeah. I know. Maybe I'm just trying to feel like the world's not run by how much money everybody can make, and they'll stop producing as soon as they feel comfortable. I don't know.
I mean, it's an interesting perspective. I mean, it's enough of a thing that this isn't the only story that I've actually seen that has come up about this. There's been a number of people who've kind of talked about that. And even as much so that Damien, who's our writer, actually had breakfast and had coffee with somebody who had just recently gone through the same thing. So it's just there's a lot more money there than they thought. And you have people who were working in the company within 5 years that are now multimillionaires over, right? So it's actually, it was a lot of rich people. And of course, that's always going to come at a cost. But it still doesn't bring the other thing that was actually super interesting was the part where, regardless of even the money being made, that the lack of competition, and that was a statement that was actually at the very kind of end of that thing, where that lack of competition has also had an effect on, when you're trying to win, it drives competition. But if you're winning and you're winning by a lot, some of that motivation has a tendency to go away.
Yeah, this is a mindset that I know I don't have. I'm not world class in any given skill set, nor am I at the top of anything. But you look at some teams, let's take sports for example, right? Teams that win the NBA championship or win the Super Bowl, they tend not to go back to back, right? And the ones that do are the ones that are they have to unlock a new gear of we're not just at the top, but we need to maintain that. And it's a different mindset to struggle and try to get to the top than it is to try to stay there. And so I don't I don't know if they're gonna manage it, but also like AMD's not really giving them much competition, especially in the AI sector. Like there's just, but also it doesn't feel like Jensen has changed his tone or tune very much either. Where
Right.
he's still beating the same drums that he was like. If you watch GTC back in 2018 when they unveiled the Volta architecture, and he was
Right.
talking about tensor cores and how amazing AI is. He's saying the same stuff now, 6 years later. It's just now he happens to be way wealthier because of all of it.
Yes, he has 2 kitchens, unlike those of us who only have 1 kitchen.
Why does he have so many spatulas?
I don't know.
That's what I'm trying to. Are they AI generated in the background,
I
or
don't
like
know.
are those real?
And I really honestly want to know how many leather jackets the dude has too, because he's got to have quite a few.
Yeah, it'd be incredible to find out he only has one, and like it's a family heirloom that he's kept for years, and like that would be a nice story.
That would be a nice story. Speaking, another interesting one that was like I just thought this was pretty funny, and I read the article, and the article was actually not harshing on it, but this article came out that said Nvidia fails to make list of top 100 most recognizable brands. Now, this was prior to them actually becoming, in for a short time, I believe a short time, the most what's the word I'm looking for here, Brett?
Valuable company.
Thank you. The most valuable, unlike the two of us that have now determined we are not the best at anything. The most valuable company in the world, right? But basically saying that Nvidia failed to make the list of top 100 most recognizable brands. Now this person goes off to say that he actually doesn't think that they'll actually make it next year either. And when you think about McDonald's, Apple, that kind of is consumer across the board versus how niche in a lot of ways, and still impactful, but very how niche Nvidia is. I just thought this was kind of a funny little article. That's all.
Yeah, nerds are still not very high on recognizable brands. Like Nvidia is for a long time just been a nerd brand, and like you look at who would know what GPU is in their PC.
Yep.
People who care to look, and even then you'd have to have an Nvidia GPU in your PC, and so like the subsect of people who have known about Nvidia previously, it's so small. And like you think about consoles even, right? Like Nvidia is not really in consoles besides the Switch, but I don't think most people can tell you. Nintendo Switch, what's the second best selling console of all time? Most people don't know it's an Nvidia chip. Nobody knows what's in their PlayStation 5 or their Xbox. They're not going to know it's AMD. They think it's Sony or Microsoft.
Yep. No, you're actually not wrong, right? Like it's one of those things that it's funny because like we had talked about, and I'll be honest, when we think about it's interesting because I feel like AMD, for like, just to take a segue because you brought up consoles in general, I feel like AMD actually did a really good job by getting themselves inside of the Xbox, inside of the PlayStation, inside of the Steam Deck, inside of, those are all Radeon powered devices, right? Like, and then by doing that, you now have developers, and I know this for sure, right? Like, because game developers were developing on AMD Radeon, in a lot of ways, that means that they're more apt to run better on those because, consoles a lot of times still a first-class citizen in terms of game development, because that's where they still sell a tremendous amount of software, right? Like, and so it's like funny enough, like as I'm thinking of like reading about Nvidia and thinking about what AMD has to do to be more mindshare, to be more successful in the next iteration. What do you think that is?
They have to have better hardware and software, right? Like I think, them being in the top consoles is helpful. But also like the number one comment you see all of the time is like, I'm not going to get an AMD card because the software is buggy.
Yeah.
And I don't know how they get past that, right? Like that comes from track record and reputation, and like it takes years to build a reputation, and it takes a single event to destroy it. And as soon as you have one major controversy that like your drivers are unstable, even amongst the nerds, you stop being popular, and then trying to get out to generalize people, it gets really difficult. And so I don't know. I really, this is one of those things that's above my pay grade. I couldn't even dare to think of how they could fix it.
I mean, it's interesting, right? Because I feel like even looking back at Arc, and maybe it's just because Arc is, and again, there is a, guys, remember, there is a third competitor here. They have a very small market share, but there is a third competitor here, and that is Intel Arc. I mean, Arc has had some pretty big missteps, right? I mean, you've had games that launched that just flat out didn't work. You know what I mean? Like, it feels like people have come to the rescue from Intel, but people, like, for the most part, Intel folks have been very happy with Intel drivers, right? I'm curious, like even regardless of those missteps, it feels like Intel's been able to weather this stuff to the point where people are excited about what's going to come out with Battlemage, which is something that everybody just has no idea. All right, outside of we saw the little bit that we got to see at ITT around XE2, etc. But like, it's funny. It's like one of those things that I've thought about. Like, I feel like from a strategy standpoint, AMD made a lot of good decisions. But maybe it was one of those things, like, is that just the thing they forgot, is like to invest in the software department or whatever it was, because it feels that I know, and I know this from my audience who gets so mad at me, but every time that we do our reviews and we do AMD versus Nvidia, we have a ton of issues when we do our testing for our AMD cards, like a ton. And then on the Nvidia side,
you're paid by Nvidia.
Yeah, that's because I'm an Nvidia shill. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't, but I look at the strategy that AMD pulled out with like being in so many things, and people are excited about their APUs and stuff like that, but it just feels like when you look at Radeon sales, here's an even more interesting question. Do you think that ray tracing matters, Brett?
Oh, yes. Yeah, I think I'm on the, I've been on the bleeding edge, right, for a while. I've had every RTX card since Nvidia decided that ray tracing was the next big thing. I think ray tracing matters, and I think anybody who says it doesn't have a powerful enough card. That's it. And
wow, okay.
Like when you actually turn ray tracing on and you have a card that's capable of running it at a high frame rate, the game looks better. It is more immersive. It is more beautiful. But now, like, are we talking about, should that matter to the average consumer? Most people are going to play League of Legends, right? And who cares if that's ray traced? Probably not a lot. But I mostly game in AAA titles.
Yep.
Single player, narrative driven, story-based
games. And that's where
games.
It matters a lot.
And that's where I love it. As long as I can hit 60 or, at best 144 FPS on a high-end graphics card, I will turn ray tracing on every single time.
Yep.
To the average consumer, they're playing Fortnite, but Fortnite with ray tracing, it's actually not that well implemented. I think it's path tracing that's the real one. Cyberpunk with path tracing turned on is a next level experience.
Yep. No, it's funny because I actually didn't know that about you, that you and I have very similar gaming. Like, I play Cyberpunk, I play I pretty much play single player games. Like, even the ones that you saw me stream, like I'm playing a lot of Elden Ring. Elden Ring does actually have ray tracing. It does make somewhat of a difference, but there are games like Alan Wake 2, Cyberpunk 2077. You talk about the brand new ones from the newly released Sony titles. God of War will also have it, and it will, and I think Nvidia is doing a really good job of actually basically saying, like, hey, we know what the key tentpole titles are going to be, and we're going to make sure that it looks amazing and better with ray tracing on, right? But it's one of those things that I feel like Nvidia, when we had 2000 series Nvidia cards, like, people were like, I don't think this is going to be a thing. And nowadays, I feel like that has, in a lot of ways, when you talk about the hardware, that because they were a generation behind, that didn't help AMD. And when you looked at all the titles, the games didn't look as good on Radeon cards as they do on Nvidia cards. I still think that matters, whether you want to say it or not. Yeah.
Right. Well, I think it's reflected in the market share, right?
Yep.
Like, everybody can say that it doesn't matter, but then most people are still buying Nvidia. But also, according to all of the rumors, we're expected to get insanely improved ray tracing with RDNA 3.5, which is supposed to hit RX 8000 GPUs, but also the PS5 Pro, which is supposed to launch later this year, allegedly. And I'm going to upgrade. I want to see it. I want to play those games. But also, there are people in chat who are commenting, like, there are other upgrades you can make to your system that are going to make your games look a lot better, like OLED. That's a
Yep.
massive improvement. I think if you can get an OLED monitor, get an OLED monitor because
Yeah.
it's gonna look way better even if you don't turn on ray tracing.
Yep. And it's funny because like when you go in there, it's like it's like when you go and you ask these questions, a lot of times people come in there's like, hey, I want to upgrade my PC, and then you'll say this stuff, and they'll be like, oh, I have like a, you know, I have like a 6700K. Should I get a 4090? It's like, no, what? No,
Yeah.
like this is like, let's really walk through what's actually going to make your experience better. And then a lot of times it comes down to it's like. We've even had those conversations with customers like what you've talked about where it's like, well, wait, are your games running bad? No. Well, what monitor are you running in? Oh, dude, I'm running on like a, you know, some $200
Sonic 1080p 75 hertz $70
and you're like, dude,
monitor.
Yeah, just go get a Xeneon 27-inch OLED or one of the brand new Asus ROG ones or whatever it was if you're okay with not having your warranty. But like the point being is that, you know, it's like, there are things that you can do that'll actually make your gaming way better, and you will experience way more than spending a couple $100 on upgrading to a 4080 or 4090 or whatever it was.
Yeah, yeah. This is a conversation that you know, we get asked a lot in, you know, our PC building streams and like talking about bottlenecks. Like, I want to get this CPU, I want to get this GPU, and the truth is like bottlenecks are always going to exist. Otherwise, you'd get infinity FPS, right?
Yep.
And so like you're always going to have a bottleneck. It's about improving your experience to the way that like it matters to you. And like for me, my biggest bottleneck is typically not my hardware. It's how good can I even play the game? Like, do I need this running at 144 FPS? No, I'm not going to react fast enough. I'm so bad at video games, it doesn't matter. Yeah. So like what do I need a 4090 for? Absolutely nothing. I can play with a 4060, get 60 FPS, and I'm gonna have the exact same experience.
I like that. I think we need a trademark that. Yes, it's the get good bottleneck, son. You don't even need new hardware. You need to upgrade your brain and your twitch reflexes because it doesn't matter outside of that. Okay, well, that's enough about this. This is something that you actually know a little bit more about than I did, and I did want to talk about this because there's actually a lot. It feels like the EU, they're out of a 6-month session and everybody's in trouble, and like literally everybody. Because today Microsoft was in trouble for bundling Teams, and the EU says Apple is anti-steering rules in breach of DMA, and they want them to pay for every major country's deficits for the rest of their lives. It is essentially the what they've basically come down to. What do we need to know about this? And
so essentially, a few months ago, the EU passed the Digital Markets Act, which forced Apple to allow third-party app stores, third-party app downloads, as well as the ability to have platform payments. So something like your Spotify subscription, Spotify should be allowed, according to the EU, to allow you to link out from the Spotify app to go pay for your subscription somewhere else. And typically that's cheaper because Apple has a 30% surcharge.
Yep.
So what the EU has found is that while Apple is following the letter of the law, they don't care about the spirit of the law at all. So with these links allowing Spotify to link out, what they're not doing is allowing Spotify to advertise that it's cheaper, which they have to under this new DMA. They're supposed to be able to advertise, hey, there is a better way to pay for your subscription. Go do it on our website. Additionally, it's the same when it comes to the third-party app stores. Apple is requiring that these companies have a dev account in good standing with Apple in order to even have this. And so those are both big no-nos when it comes to the ease of what the DMA is supposed to be allowing. And Apple's essentially saying, no, but we're protecting our customers. This is security, and like we're doing the right thing here. And so the EU is going to be investigating. They have 12 months to investigate. And if they find Apple guilty, it'll be 10% of Apple's annual global revenue for one violation. And every subsequent violation should increase that by 10%. So Apple makes about $380 billion a year in global revenue. So the fine would be about $38 billion, which is not a slap on the wrist. That's a
very big amount of money.
Yes. Yeah. So it's going to come down to the EU trying to enforce this, and but we're also seeing Apple kind of retaliate in a way where they're not putting new features into the EU market. So Apple Intelligence not going to be on EU iPhones. A few other things, I think, like the iPhone screen sharing to Mac also
Yep.
not going to be allowed, simply because Apple says, hey, we actually can't guarantee that in order to protect our customers, we can comply with the DMA, so you can't get these new features. So the
Yep.
EU is going to be left behind, and it feels like it's a staring contest between this massive governmental agency and the third largest company in the world.
And yeah, and it's funny because you said something interesting enough, right? Like, what if Apple just decides not to, right? Like, if they just like, 10% of your money, it's like you owe me 10%, right? Like, it's just like, I mean, will the EU literally be like, kind of like what we're going to talk about a little bit later with some of these sanctions with the other things? Like, well, you just can't use an iPhone in the EU, and it's like,
yeah,
I don't know.
Are they too big to regulate? Because we've seen that before, where
Yep.
like there can be different laws for people who have the financial ability to change things. And so, yeah, if it's because it's not just, nobody's allowed to use an iPhone, you're actually harming the economy at that point. Like if
Yep.
Apple gets removed from an entire 440 million person unit, that their economy will suffer because of it. And so like, it will come down to, I think, some sort of compromise likely at the end of it.
Yep. And some people are saying, for folks who are just joining us, people are saying like, hey, I was expecting thousands of people. Guys, this is a brand new show. We announced it a week ago. It's gonna take some time to get in there. You guys being here are what makes it awesome. Again, we're trying something new. This is the way it kind of works. So I mean, that's just this is like it's okay. If we were streaming to 3 people, it doesn't matter. Brett and I get to hang out, and that's really what this. Your guys are just an additional excuse for us to get to hang out. So
yeah. You told me that we were streaming like 5 minutes before you said we could talk about all this. So this is all a surprise to me. Yeah.
It's all my fault, Brett says. It's all my fault. Wait, this one actually breaks my heart a little bit. I understand.
Oh yeah, this one's brutal.
This one's brutal, just because this is something we cover a lot. U.S. has sanctioned PC cooling and power supply maker DeepCool for selling products to Russia, fueling its war efforts in the Ukraine. And believe it or not, if you go to Newegg right now and you search on DeepCool,
they're gone.
They're gone.
You can find their products. They're out of stock now, but yeah, it's bad.
Yeah, it's bad. I mean, this was like it's crazy, right? Like it's so essentially what happened, guys, is that DeepCool sold to 2 particular companies that have direct ties to Russia, and in doing this, the U.S. basically said, hey, we told you you're not allowed to do that. And now you can't sell your products in the United States as of July, right? Like, which is in like 5 days. Which I just realized I have a review for the CH160 that's supposed to be out next week.
Oh, I mean, it's still good to the worldwide audience.
Yeah, that's true.
That's the tough thing is like, it wasn't just that they sold to 2 companies. It's that they sold $1 million worth.
Yeah, it was not a small amount.
It wasn't just an oopsie. But like DePoet said in chat, like we spent time with the DeepCool people at Computex. Like I talked to the American marketing rep. Like we've hung out before. He's a really good guy, and I don't think he had any idea that this was happening, because it wasn't DeepCool America that was doing this. This was DeepCool Beijing, and so the parent company's doing all of this, and then all of a sudden, like not only do DeepCool products not get to be sold in the U.S., as far as I'm aware, they're not allowed to provide warranty support either.
Yeah.
And then the entire American arm is just shut down. Like they don't have jobs anymore.
So that did it. So it's been really interesting, because you and I think there was something that you actually made with, like, they're still making posts. Like they're still doing stuff, and they're still advertising, and they're still, but like, so they actually and I know a lot of people who actually work for DeepCool, so they don't have jobs right now?
That's as far as I'm aware, based on how the sanctions worked. They're not allowed to receive money from this company. Like it's a financial sanction, so they're not allowed to have a business presence in the U.S. So that should theoretically mean that they can't get paid from this company.
Wow. Yeah. And
that's not something I've been able to confirm, but
I haven't either. I've actually written a couple emails.
How the sanctions work.
Yeah. And it's super weird, because DeepCool hasn't, like you said, DeepCool's been very quiet about this. Like there's been nothing out of them in terms of no response. Like they haven't even sent anything. Like there's a lot of us, like you, myself, DePoets, yeah, I mean, you name it. We all use a lot of their products. They have incredible products and some really great stuff coming out, but we've had like no communication in terms of anything from these guys.
Yeah, it's rough. And I mean, felt like they were in a renaissance of like their design, and they were coming out with really great products. I mean, I built my two oldest kids' PCs over for Christmas, and I put Assassin 4s in both of them because I was like, this is a great cooler that looks beautiful. Like there is a lot moving forward with DeepCool, and now it's they're still posting like Minions memes on their DeepCool global Twitter account and not talking about it.
No, and it's a very strange situation when you're seeing how the company itself is actually reacting. And you know, somebody had said earlier that it was actually a DeepCool subsidiary that had done it, not even the parent company. But again, and it wasn't. There was another one that we're going to talk about briefly because you covered it as part of the news. But yeah, this one was one that actually cut pretty deep, right? Like when we think about it, it felt like DeepCool had kind of turned a corner, probably starting a year and a half ago. And then they've just been kind of killing it with their air coolers, some of their cases, even their AIOs. I mean, minus the fact that their CDN, like at one point in time, it took me 45 minutes to download an 83 meg file from their CDN. You know what I mean? Like there was just some weird stuff, but dude, it's strange looking at all the stuff that's kind of going on with DeepCool and the fact that you're like, I mean, they used to be one of the go-to products, and then it's like I can't even recommend them because you can't even get them, right? And I was hoping this would be something that's kind of like not only that, but the announcement was swift and the cutoff date. Like usually it's like, think about how long it's taking to ban TikTok. Now I'm not equating DeepCool to TikTok, but I mean that was fast.
Yeah. Well, it was with already existing sanctions that happened. I mean, the war in Ukraine has been going on for over a year and a half at this point. So like there's the warnings were there. You know, maybe potentially there could be divestment where like the part that sold to Russia could be excommunicated and the rest of the company could be set. I don't know.
Yeah,
that's like
this is all like conjecture.
Yeah. But then also like it's not just DeepCool that got hit with sanctions. Kaspersky, the antivirus software, also is going to be banned in the US for the exact same reason. And so like it appears like there's geopolitical things that are impacting the tech sector in a way that we haven't really seen in a while. And then there's still the China versus US thing with semiconductors and like the tariffs that are getting increased there, and then DJI is potentially on the chopping block with their drones. Like there's a lot of pieces moving for a lot of different reasons.
Yeah, the DJI thing, like, and it's funny because I thought about putting that in there. The DJI one is like that's like a legit. I mean, think about how many drones, like you're talking about commercial, everybody, like they are more than a household. That's like the Apple of drones right there, right?
It'd be like banning Nvidia and saying buy a graphics card. It's like, oh yeah, I guess I'm on AMD now with worse ray tracing. Like DJI pioneered so many of the like premier drone features that like people use, like the location, the obstacle avoidance, the reliability, their camera software, like everything about DJI. Like they're at the top of the industry, and they've been that way since drones became mainstream. And it's interesting, but like there's also like things that they can do potentially to not get banned that's different than TikTok. Where like they don't have to be sold off, they just have to like disable certain like communication pieces that might break some of the feature sets. It's all like contact your Congress people. That's,
If you have thoughts on this stuff, yes, you can. I mean, like again, I mean the Kaspersky one, which we talked about like lightly, right? Like to be honest, like this is a way more niche than like the DeepCool or the DJI thing. Still something that it just feels like we've had this like it's just been this quick succession. You know, we saw TikTok and all the stuff kind of happened there, and then we saw the DeepCool, the Kaspersky, and then you now have even the DJI thing, DJI.
It sounds like a G, but I know I'm saying DJI, but it sounds like
It's I mean there's a word for that when like something doesn't sound right, even though you pause and you know you're saying it correctly, but So crazy times with tech, and just some of the things going in there. But I want to jump to actually a really bit of good news, and I actually think this is actually really rad. And you were the one who highlighted this one. PC Factory Worker Amusement Center opens in Japan. Kids learning to do PC DIY with real CPU, memory, and graphics card. They're literally put them to work at this location, and the kids get to build using a real computer parts. And I'll take it to this image right here, which I think is actually super cool. This is like the little workbench area where they get to build a PC.
Yeah. I mean, this is it's a amusement center in Tokyo where, like, I think the entire idea behind it is that teaching kids real world skills in various industries.
Yep.
And this is just like the latest one. So the PC Factory Worker, which, not everybody wants to build a PC forever, all day, every day, but this gives a 30-minute experience where they get to understand the components, how they get put together, and like what they do. It's only like $28 US equivalent for kids to do it. It's such a cool little thing.
So I've built a PC with my son and my daughter, and I mean, like, it's funny because my head went to I was like, I wonder how many CPUs, because they said it has to get to the point where it boots, right? Like, that was the part that they had said at the thing, and I was like, man, I hope that they're using what would be, like, I was thinking, like, what would be the safest hardware to do this with? Like, I'm not worried as much about GPU, but like CPUs, there's a lot of mistakes, man. If you drop the chip, especially if it's like an older like Ryzen chip and it's got pins, or even on like on an LGA, like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to think of how they actually did this. So
doesn't Asus like sell some sort of like CPU placement thing that they can include with the motherboard where it like makes it a little easier? I think they've had an accessory like that where you're not like dropping it in, but you're putting in a little plastic thing. Actually, Threadripper is pretty hard to mess up.
Nah, that is true.
Because it like slides in.
Yeah. So maybe that's what I'd love to see, is they're dropping Threadripper Pros into these systems for these kids. But I mean, somebody said, hey, you guys need to go to Japan and go check this place out. You're not wrong. I actually really want to kind of go through this and vlog this. This would be a lot of fun. Like, take 6 or 7 TechTubers and go build PCs at this amusement center.
Push all of the kids out. It's us now.
Yeah, and let us go in and do it. They also said, it was also interesting, they said, you were talking about it wasn't just the only one. You could be a dentist, it says optician, surgeon. I hope they're not doing that on real people. You know what I mean?
They did surgery.
Car mechanic, radio presenter, call center operator, and many other vocations. I didn't even know there still were call center operators. Oh, wait, never mind. Like, yes, I did. If you want to go be a scammer, kids, this is where you go learn about this. But this is actually pretty cool. Like, I wish there was an experience like this to go and do it. Like, I got a chance. I think I told you about this. Maybe I didn't. When I was in San Antonio, AMD and EK actually sponsored this training program, and I taught 100 kids, 100 high school students, how to build a PC at the same time. And 97 of the 100 PCs booted at the end. And we took them through the entire process of doing their PC from beginning to end. It's a very rewarding thing. So I love, and there are a lot of kids, this is like a useful skill, right? Like to go and do stuff like this. So yeah, that was...
Micro Center needs to have like a program like this.
Yeah, that actually would be pretty, like doing like a summer camp, like a summer, like learning all the ins and outs.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Get on at Micro Center. Hey, I'd be happy if they just even freaking put a Micro Center here in, good old Seattle. We're still waiting for that.
Yeah, I have to drive to Ohio to get to mine. It's unfortunate.
You have to go to Ohio?
Yeah, well, they have 3 in Ohio because it's where they started. So, like, I have, within a 5-hour drive, I can go to 7 of them, but there's none within an hour.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so sorry, Quirky, if you're waiting for a Micro Center in Europe, you've got a long list of us in the United States. You guys have so many other nice things. Let's let us have our Micro Centers everywhere first, and then you Europeans can take that as well. Just give us a chance to get them here too. And then this is where I get all the people who are like, oh, well, there's a Micro Center right next to me. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah,
thanks for
I just have to
in.
drive like 45 minutes. Yeah, great.
Yeah, lucky you.
Well,
really appreciate it.
It's honestly better, right? Like, I am spending less money because I have that like hesitation of like, do I want to wait 2 days for Newegg to ship me this product? no, okay, so I don't need it. Whereas if I had a micro center nearby, impulse purchases would become a real problem.
Really? Like, so you think you would spend more if there was a micro center close by?
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. Because I would run there for any little thing that I needed. Whereas like right now, I have to count like I have to go to Best Buy if I want anything today, and they don't have much. I'm lucky if they have a 4060 in stock. So like building a PC has to be a methodical, well thought out process for me, and I thrive in chaos. So going to a micro center and just grabbing whatever I wanted immediately, that's what I love about it.
I do have to say our Best Buys here are actually pretty stocked. Like I can get a 4080 and below pretty easily. Pretty much almost any MSI or motherboard or what I mean. So if I needed any,
I can get a 580.
Yeah,
they have those in stock still.
I can get almost any CPU. RAM is pretty good. It's mostly Corsair and NZXT at this point in time.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're not wrong. It's not the greatest thing, but Best Buy has come through in a pinch. I'm going to give them a little bit of credit. It's not a lot.
It's where I go.
Yeah.
It's what I have, and I am a little bit disappointed moving to Pittsburgh because my Best Buy in Florida was stocked like that,
right.
Where it was like I could build a full PC in any price category, whereas now it's like I have to make decisions ahead of time.
I mean, and then how is where you're located? Because the other thing that's actually been really nice about being in Seattle, and obviously Seattle's home to Amazon, is I can pretty much get almost all PC hardware same day or next day from like on an Amazon side.
It's at best it's next day here. Most of it's at least 2 days. Same day, not for PC parts.
Okay.
Like, if I needed some Windex, yeah, they'll have enough. But then I have to do like a $25 minimum order quantity of 85 bottles of Windex. It's not.
You're good to go. You're good to go. Yes, I agree. It also blows my mind that there is no micro center in Seattle. In fact, most of the time when I tell people that, they're like, really? Like that feels like the natural place to put it. You're right. It is the natural place, micro center. It should be here. Okay, now for something completely different. Our first very interesting subject. I mean, again, we've talked about a lot of tech stuff, but we do have to talk about this because, I mean, it'd just be weird not to. A big streamer, who it kind of feels like we're going through a repeat here. A big streamer was just recently, I mean, literally, this all happened in a matter of days, but essentially somebody from a Twitch partner manager, right, came out and accused Dr. Disrespect for the ban that he got permanently on Twitch. For those who don't know, like now he does stream exclusively on YouTube. He was banned on Twitch permanently. Basically his channel erased. All of his subs who were refunded, and nobody knew why. So then, what, 3 years? Was it 3 years or 4 years later? I don't know if you know off the top of your head, Brett.
I think it was 2020 he got banned.
Yeah, he got 2020. So 4 years later, almost to the day, a individual who formerly worked at Twitch came out and said, hey, just as an FYI, the reason that Dr. Disrespect was banned is because he was sexting a minor using our then Twitch chat app. People saw it, and that's why he was banned. And then from there, it turned into like a, wait, what? Like he dropped a bomb, and then it started to kind of grow from there. So then a couple days later, we saw Dr. Disrespect basically say that, look, he's like, I'm tied to legal obligation. He said, I didn't do anything wrong, and this has been probed and settled, nothing illegal, no wrongdoing, and found and was paid, and then said he's gonna go back to Elden Ring. It kind of settled for like what it seemed like a couple days, and then the bigger thing that kind of happened, well, I think it was about 24 hours, and then Midnight Society, which is actually the game company that he founded in partnership, and actually one of my friends, Quint, and I have a number of friends who I worked with Halo who now work for this company. Den said, hey, on Friday evening we became aware of the allegations against one of our co-founders, Guy Boom. For those who don't know, that is Dr. Disrespect. We assumed his innocence and began speaking with parties involved. And in order to maintain our principles and standards as a studio and individual, we needed to act. And for this reason, they terminated their relationship with Dr. Disrespect. And now, essentially, then it got picked up big. Like we're talking about BBC and all those guys. And literally within the same amount of time, very shortly after this, Dr. Disrespect said, hey, look, I'm just feeling burnt out. He says he's going to go on an infinite break from streaming. And yeah.
I mean, this is a tough subject, right? Because obviously he's trying to deny it as much as he can. But then there's also, I mean, his own game company that he co-founded saying that they presumed innocence and to uphold their values, they have to let him go. So that like, it's difficult, and it kind of like this has been a long-standing thing with Twitch that I think a lot of people were confused about. Like, how could I mean, he was at #1 or #2 at the time when he got banned. Like, how can you just drop him without saying anything,
Right.
and then never speak on it for 4 years? It was just always like an albatross for Twitch, where it's like, are you going to do that to everybody? Like, how do we know how your systems work?
Right.
And so like there's not much to say here besides if there are victims involved, like obviously we want them to be protected in the best way possible, which is one of the primary reasons I've heard that there was silence for so long, because it was in the interest of protecting the identity of the person on the receiving end of all of this, which is the best case scenario, that Twitch didn't say anything in order to protect the victim.
So, believe it or not, about 5 minutes after our show went live, he made another statement, which we have not seen. And I'm gonna, like, again, guys, you know that I have a tendency to be family friendly, so I will not be saying all of the words that are in this, but I do want to read this out loud because somebody, and thank you very much for letting us know that he had put more information. So this is, Brett and I are getting this firsthand for the first time, like live. So here we go, Brett. Yeah. We're getting tested to the fullness of our capabilities here. Says the Twitch ban. Hello, I'd like to make a quick statement. Let's cut the blank. As you know that there's no filter with me. I've always been upfront and real with you guys on anything that I can be upfront about, and I'm always willing to accept responsibility, which is why I'm here now. First and foremost, I do want to apologize to everyone in my community, as well as those close to me, my team, and everyone at Midnight Society Game Studio. A lot of people have been left in the dark about what happened yesterday with Midnight Society, and we made the painful decision collectively to have me step down. Our team is full of incredibly talented and good people that have high career ambitions and families, and I never wanted to jeopardize a culture we have carefully crafted. Everyone has been wanting to know why I was banned from Twitch, but for reasons outside of my control, I was not allowed to say anything for the last several years. Now that 2 former Twitch employees have publicly disclosed their accusations, I can now tell you my side of the story regarding the ban. When were there Twitch whispers messages with an individual minor back in 2017? The answer is yes. Was there real intentions behind these messages? The answer is absolutely not. They were casual, mutual conversations, but sometimes leaned too much in the direction of being inappropriate, but nothing more. Nothing illegal happened, no pictures were shared, no crimes were committed. I never met the individual. I went through a lengthy arbitration regarding a civil dispute with Twitch, and that case was resolved by a settlement of which they paid out his entire contract. Let me be clear, it was not a criminal case against me, and no criminal charges had ever been brought against me. Now, from a moral standpoint, I absolutely take responsibility. I should have never entertained these conversations to begin with. That's on me. That's on me as an adult, a husband, and a father. I should have never happened. I get it. I'm not perfect, and I will words that I'm not going to say. This was stupid. Now, with all this said, don't be mistaken. I've seen all the remarks and labels being thrown around so loosely. Social media is a destruction zone. I am no predator or pedophile. Are you kidding me? Anyone that truly knows me knows that I stand on those things and those type of people. There's a different level of disgust, and I hate even hearing about it. Don't be labeling me as the worst of the worst with your exaggerations. Get out of here. But I think that being said, I need to say regarding the ban, that's it. That's why Twitch made the decision in 2020. To my team, community, industry friends that have supported me, I apologize. I wish I could have said things sooner. You guys have always showed me and my family love and support throughout all of these years. We love you guys, and you can't imagine. I have the best community and circle. If anything has made you uncomfortable, I get it. You don't have to support me anymore, but just know you've always been greatly appreciated. But trust me when I say this, to all my haters who live and breathe social media with zero life experience, I don't care about you, basically. Finally, if you're uncomfortable with this entire statement and I think I'm a piece of crap, that's fine, but I'm not going anywhere. I'm not the same guy. I made the mistake all those years ago. I'm taking the extended vacation with my family, as mentioned on Steam, and I'll come back with a heavy weight off my shoulders. They want me to disappear? Yeah, right. So yeah, there he goes. He basically said that he did do this. There was an arbitration and a civil suit. He was found, from a legal standpoint, it was found that he had no, obviously he was not, I mean, they paid out his contract, right? So the judge found it on his side, and this is where he essentially stands. I don't know, man, this is crazy.
Yeah, well done to Twitch for taking down somebody powerful and preventing something from going further. That's all I can see here is that he says it didn't go far enough for it to be illegal, but that as a father, I don't care.
Yeah.
I'd like, oh man, that is wow. It's
this
an
guy
admission,
is...
but also a deflection, and like it, yeah. Maybe Twitch legally had to pay it out, but the law doesn't necessarily dictate morality either.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the thing is like, I think the only thing that I can say at the very end is that in terms of where you sit, and this is going to be you as a character, either you now know the truth. He told you. I mean, the truth is he's basically saying it from his side and his perspective, and it's going to be up to you on whether you're somebody who is going to watch and support or not. And this is going to be, completely aligned with your moral lines on one way or the other. For us, we're just reporting what is or talking about what we've seen. There is some crazy stuff here, right? Like again, and people had basically asked, right, from a law standpoint, and this is the part that's been super interesting. And I want to start with, we are not lawyers. Are you a lawyer, Brett?
Nope. Don't even play one on TV.
Yeah, I don't even play one on TV. Yeah, we don't do any of that stuff. So the only thing that I can say is that from the things that we are garnering, there is a lot of protections here in the United States and worldwide in terms of children. And so the only thing that I know that people have brought up is that when you're trying to protect a minor, that how things get news, especially if there's not a criminal suit, if it really was just a civil suit, that probably makes it 1,000 times harder to bring anything like this to public. Yeah, that's the only thing I can think of. But it has been very interesting to watch the U.S. justice system plus big company plus big powerhouse streamer and how this has all happened. It has been a little bit of a wake-up call. It's funny because it does actually, in some regards, have ties to even how the Apple EU situation is going. And you're seeing this in like kind of a different microcosm here with kind of the streaming stuff in terms of, I don't know, it'll be interesting to watch something like this have happened where not only did he had an affair and then at the same time, which he admitted to, so I'm just going to be super clear, and then he had this, which was also, he even calls irresponsible.
Streaming incident in the bathroom at TwitchCon.
Yeah, and the streaming incident in the bathroom, and then to have 3 things like that happen, and then the dude still is very successful. I mean, that's an interesting situation, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I have certain feelings on it, and I think I can communicate that. I think protecting a child is the correct call, and I don't think that there's much merit in like debating him as a person or like trying to see like I'm not terminally online. I'm not a hater of Dr. Disrespect. Like it's clear he has been an entertaining personality for a lot of people, and if he's doing things that, if he was contacting my child who is a minor, I wouldn't want that.
Yeah. Yep. And I think that's the thing that goes in there is like there's a lot of humanity that we can see in this situation, right? In terms of, it's funny. Like I would not be surprised if we end up with a Netflix series in the next 5 to 10 years, right? Yeah. You know what I mean? So. It's not. Yeah, and again, we're all we're doing is we're going to give you the information. In terms of it's just one of those things that you're going to have to set. It's where you kind of sit morally. But yeah, it's just one of those things that, if it was my daughter that had happened to, I'd be pretty upset. Yeah. In a lot of ways, right? Regardless of even if the intentions or whatever it was, it's just not something you do. So. Yeah, there it is.
Well, right. Do you want to transition? We can talk about this next one and then close out with some Q&A.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about the AI one, or do you want to talk about?
No, I was gonna skip that one.
Okay, you want to do Elden Ring?
Yeah, I was thinking that one.
Let's do something a little bit lighter.
Yeah, transition out and close out the show.
Yeah, we can close out the show because we're coming up on the last like 15 minutes here, guys. This one I think is funny. And this is somebody, as I am playing through Elden Ring right now, but basically people are review bombing. People are mad that Elden Ring is too hard. I'm sorry. Yeah. I don't and it's been interesting watching Asmongold. There's been a number of people who've basically reacted, everything from Kai and watching him basically go through literally 500 plus deaths as he's been playing through this 100-hour stream thing. But I mean, it's one of those things I played. I mean, I dropped a boss, with help, and it's like it's been a reaction in terms of I feel like a lot of people who picked up Elden Ring late, then went through and learned how to be OP after all the guides were in there, expecting to go in and be OP when the game came out, and it's surprise, surprise. This is their MO, dude. You had to beat a boss that only 18% of Xbox players had ever beaten. Less than 40% of PC players had ever beaten. 30% of PlayStation players had ever beaten. That should give you an indication of how hard the DLC is going to be.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the difficulty is a game mechanic, and that's one of the tricky parts for a lot of people, is that it requires a rewiring to play a FromSoft game from most other titles. Death is a game mechanic. How you die is how you're supposed to get better at the game. And listen, I don't like Elden Ring personally, but that's because I'm not a fan of open world adventure games. Like Breath of the Wild and all of the Legend of Zelda newer titles don't appeal to me for the same reason Elden Ring doesn't. But I love Demon Souls. I played through that, and it's also very difficult, where you have to learn timing, you have to learn skill, you have to die as part of how you play the game.
I mean, I just gotta say, like, it was one of those things, like, a couple people said that, but that's the thing, is like, it feels like I don't understand why people were surprised. I mean, he even said, like, even the day before it released, that he said that these are the most difficult bosses, and he is going to challenge what players even find as reasonable, right? Like, this is their MO. And, like, again, I wasn't expecting any different. But the funny thing is I noticed that there's two ways. Like, when you can go watch me play on Intel Live, when we played with the Intel Live one, and I went in and I played the first boss, and I just got into it. I was like, I know what I made. I made that mistake. I got mad at myself. Of course I got frustrated, but I wasn't mad at the game. I was mad at myself because I saw the mistakes I was making. And I actually ended up dropping Renault, the flame boss, Sergeant Nobody Knows This. I ended up beating him a couple days ago. And it was like literally like you guys were watching me learn on stream. And there was one guy, it took him 19 hours. He beat it with no pants, no clothes, no magic, no spells, no summons, and just a stick. And it took him 19 hours and like 2,000 deaths, right? Like, that's the kind of game this game is.
Yep.
So, I mean, and apparently a pink thong and a green skin. So, I mean, like, that's also the kind of game this game is, I guess, apparently.
I mean, that's just a fun time, But like, I think part of this is Elden Ring had way more critical success than FromSoft has in the past. Like, I don't think any of their other games, no Dark Souls, reached the critical mass that Elden Ring did when it came out. And so part of that was the excitement. Then you also have a massive streamer like Kai coming out and doing a marathon to get people excited for the DLC. And so you have a lot of people who are not used to this entire
gameplay
line and lineage of get good scrub like that. FromSoft games, Dark Souls, were known for being this punishing, but Dark Souls 3 came out so long ago that I think a lot of the fresh entries into enjoying Elden Ring maybe aren't as familiar, and they're learning for the first time.
Yep, you're not wrong. I mean, again, so, I mean, it was very interesting. It's kind of a cool subject to kind of end on. If you haven't had a chance, I thought it was super classy. The Witcher 3, CD Projekt Red actually at the time had the highest rated DLC of all time with the Witcher 3 DLC. And then they even came in and said, congratulations, I couldn't have lost it to a better person, right? Yep. Honestly, they've made an incredible game that is just, it's literally one of a generation, right? And we don't get that very often. And so, yes, it's not a game for everyone, but it was a game that I was so scared to play. Luckily, I had to do this impossible challenge and beat it in a week for just about. and it opened up my eyes to something that was really incredible. And if you haven't given Elden Ring a chance, I would say the base game is way more approachable than it used to be. And there's a lot of fun to be made to see some stuff that's actually just mind-blowingly cool, and some boss fights that are just on another level. So if you get a chance to play it, it's definitely worth the support, and I'm really excited for a lot of other things that From Software I'm hoping is coming through. And you're right, it was George R.R. Martin that he and the two of them built a world. Well, let's spend the next 5 or 6 minutes before we shut this thing down. Our first episode down. Brett, how do you feel it went so far, though? Good?
I think it went well. Yeah, we covered some good tech topics, some harder topics, and we learned a little bit about each other.
Yeah. Okay, guys. So if you have stuff that you want to ask us right now, we're gonna save the last like 5 to 7 minutes or so just for you guys to say. So we'll start with Cam's Cream Cheese. Do you think an ARM desktop PC in a traditional ATX chassis will become a reality in the next year or two?
I mean, the truth is they are a reality already. You go look at somebody like Jeff Geerling, and he's building PCs with the Ampere 128 cores and throwing in GPUs into it. It's a possibility. The question is, for I think most people, will the software support get good? Because that's the tricky thing with even Linux, right? Like, it's not a matter of is the hardware capable, is there something that's going to get people to switch? And when you have something like the Steam Deck drop, it makes it so that it's more accessible for everybody. Yep. For an ARM desktop, I think we need Microsoft to actually commit.
Yeah, and the other thing that was actually super interesting, right? Because they were talking about the just how more popular Linux has been as an OS, and that literally was, I think a lot of it had to do with the Steam Deck. From an ARM desktop standpoint, I think you've hit the nail on the head, right? Like they need, like Windows has to support it, right? Or something like the Steam Deck or something like some new OS that is literally just run circles around Windows, which, I mean, come on, let's be honest. All of us would love to see something like that. That all of a sudden you see a massive switch. I don't know of anything, right? Like, somebody's mentioning that, Qualcomm's apparently making a mini PC, but again, that's like a thin client or something like that. Like, I don't know. I don't know if it's there. I just feel like, is there a potential? Of course, but there's just got to be the software and support that's kind of around it, or something that, like what Valve did, where they Microsoft takes it really seriously and makes something as good as Proton. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, to be clear, the Mac Pro exists. It is an ARM-based desktop PC that can take PCI Express expansion cards. Like, it does exist. It is a thing.
Chris L456 says, "Are you guys reading this chat, Brett?"
I think so. Yeah,
I think we're reading
that exact one. Yeah.
Interesting one. I'd love to get your opinion, kind of outside of this. What is your opinion on the Cybertruck? Are you pro Cybertruck, anti Cybertruck? Where do you sit?
Oh, this is a complicated one for me. As somebody who has an electric truck, I am both intrigued but also repulsed by the Cybertruck for a couple of reasons. So there are like legitimately cool things that Tesla has done for the Cybertruck. Steer by wire and having a dynamic turning radius depending on the speed that you're going. That's something I would love on my current truck. Getting into a parking spot is a pain in the butt. And so just having tighter turning radiuses in a smaller footprint for a large truck, that'd be cool. The pricing is completely obscene, right? Like it's a minimum $100,000 to get it right now. And that is, I think is not where the market is. It's not what the truck should be valued at. And if they had launched at the price that they said that they were going to, it would be a much more compelling vehicle. But I think MKBHD hit the nail on the head when it came to diagnosing what the Cybertruck is. It is the PT Cruiser. When you first saw it, it was unique and dynamic. And then once they scaled it up, it was just run-of-the-mill, goofy little car. And I think that's what the Cybertruck's going to become.
The funny thing is it's like the thing that you said that was super interesting is that you find it intriguing. Like, as somebody who owns Tesla, like, I actually had the opportunity to get to go play around with them, and all in all, like, when I see them, I always like to go look at them and stuff like that. But man, I hated the driving experience of that car. I didn't like it. There were just things I did, like things that I was just like, why? And then at the same time, it was just like, as somebody who's owned Ford Rangers, we got to spend an extended time with the Ford F-150 Lightning. There was just things that, unlike the Tesla, where Tesla felt like they literally truly innovated on the car experience, I feel like they had no idea about the truck experience. And I feel like the Cybertruck is a terrible truck. It is That's really just what it kind of comes down to. It's just not a good truck. It is
Most people who buy trucks don't use them as utility vehicles. They use them as, traveling, getting groceries. Like, the truth is, Americans just love big vehicles.
Yep. So, yeah. I mean, DePoet says it's a fanboy. I don't even know if it's a fanboy, because I know a lot of Tesla fanboys who don't like the Cybertruck. I don't even know what to call it. It's an interesting, but it's still something like, as long as it's been out, it's still been a talking point for so many people. Somebody just asked, what's your opinion on Samsung? I don't know in what way.
They make bad refrigerators, I hear.
Oh, dang, I have a Samsung refrigerator. No, I have an LG. No, do I have a I have a Samsung. Dude, my refrigerator talks to me all the time, and I love the music for it. Yeah, I actually really like my Samsung.
Oh, you got one of the fancy ones, okay.
Yeah. It's got a screen on it, and the kids love the screen, and it sings, and it sends me notifications, and it's funny, it sends me notifications when the door's open, and like I will text my wife and be like, why is the refrigerator door open? Like, what's going on? Is groceries? Like, is something, like, is our food going bad? So, yeah. I don't know. I don't mind my Samsung, but apparently they make bad refrigerators. So there we go.
That's what I've heard. I don't own one personally.
I do have one, and mine has not been bad. But then again, I'll tell you, I literally went in there and just found the coolest one. It was like, I'll take this one. So I'll let you know in 5 or 6 years if that's true.
All right.
It's going through an actual test. Somebody asked, did you hear that and this is an AI thing in general. What do you think about AI in terms of AI getting to be in art competitions, AI being in all of these other things? Like, what is your genuine opinion on AI?
Do you want to take that one first? I'll let you hit that one.
So I think that AI, like, it's funny because like I have struggled with with what makes AI real. I know in gaming AI is a thing, and AI actually makes my life as a gamer. Ray tracing and DLSS and all that sort of stuff. That is probably the most foundational thing that I think of when I think about AI. When I think about generative AI, I think of generative AI as like a tool to help creativity go faster, but I don't think of it as a replacement for creativity and human ingenuity and stuff like that. I feel like there's some fun things that people get to do, and it allows people who can't do those things to do things that they otherwise could not, and I find that exciting. I feel like AI, in terms of as we get into what is agent level AI and what Copilot Plus and all of these other things are supposed to be, G Assist from GeForce, that is the stuff that I am actually most excited about when it comes to AI. How AI will help improve our daily lives. Do I think AI will be freaking Skynet? No. I think AI is going to be something that when you have the true AI PC, it will do things for you that when you go to a non-AI PC, you will miss. Things like tailoring, how you write documents, or making things more natural, or helping you write YouTube descriptions and all that sort of stuff. That's where I feel like AI and AI agency will be better. So my thing is that I feel like the wrong people are in charge of helping regulate AI. I feel like that is a big mistake right now, but I feel like it's still very young and there's too much hype around it and not enough real for it to make a lot of sense. That's where I'm kind of at. What about you?
I think that sounds about right, and I think that sums up a lot of my thoughts. I think right now we're in a marketing fest when it comes to these things, and we decided to call things that we used to call deep learning and machine learning, now we call it AI. I saw a really ridiculous headline. I think it was from Tom's Hardware, where it was like, NVIDIA's next gen DLSS will have AI baked in. And I was like, what do you think the DL stands for? What are we talking about? And like the article was written well, but the headline, I was like, that's the whole point, is that it is AI. It already is there. So like, it's an exercise in marketing. And I think this was a really good exercise for the podcast. I enjoyed doing that whole show with you.
Well, guys, I think we're going to call it here. It has been an absolute blast to get to hang out with you. Super appreciate all of you guys tuned in. It looks like we had, 1,000 people, which is, dude, some people will be super happy about 1,000 people showing to their first inaugural episode. So I thank you so much for tuning in. Our next episode will be 2 weeks from now. If you have feedback, please reach out to us at UFDTech and at Robeytech on Twitter. Tag us. Tell us what you would love to see, what you didn't love to see. Guys, we want to make this show fun for you. This is a great excuse for us to hang out. Please keep Brett in your thoughts and prayers tomorrow as he is going through a vasectomy.
I saw people say ice piece. That's the top response I saw. There was a few suggestions, so I'm good.
Yeah, so there we go, guys. Really appreciate you hanging out. We will see you guys on the next episode. Have a great rest of your Tuesday, and I will see you tomorrow, Wednesday, and then, of course, you can check him out on Hot News and, of course, all of his shorts that he'll be starting out tomorrow. At UFD Tech, at Robeytech. That's it for us. We'll see you guys on the next episode. Bye, guys.
Bye.